Welcome to the Maverick Podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Rose. And as always, a big shout out to all the free spirits and the independent thinkers, the Mavericks, joyfully walking their path. Today, I have a repeat guest, my good friend, Dr. Marlene Shiple. She was on the podcast a few episodes ago, and we talked about the subconscious mind. And today we're going to talk about a new book she has just released and specialty therapeutic counseling that she is developing around the topic of retirement, the planning, and not just financial planning, but the emotional, spiritual planning. So welcome, Marlene. Come on board.
Thank you so much for having me again. I sure appreciate it.
Well, it's always a joy to have you on. I have to tell people, Marlene has the most brilliant psychological mind I've ever met. She's a highly effective psychotherapist. She gets action, she gets results, and that's what we all love about you. So let's talk about this new specialty topic. And I think you have the book, if you can show the cover of it. It's called Retire Without Regret. 10 critical lifestyle planning mistakes to avoid when making decisions about retirement and what to do instead. So this book is available on Amazon right now, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
And yes. Is it right now it's an ebook, but later you will have it in print form. Is that right also?
Yes, it is on Kindle now, but Amazon has a reader online so that you can, even if you don't have a Kindle, you can get it on your phone or on your iPad or on your laptop or your desktop. So yes, it is in that form right now.
All right. So let's talk about what happens when people retire and why this topic is so important, because even if you're not close to retirement age at this very moment, what we're going to talk about will still pertain to people because there is important planning that needs to take place. And we're not talking about just financial planning, which is what people tend to think about. Oh, how am I going to plan for retirement and have enough money? We're talking emotional, spiritual, mental planning, correct?
Exactly.
All right.
No, exactly. And often people reference retirement. I'm going to do that when I retire. And it's sort of an out of the mind kind of concept for them. But retirement is a really, really significant transition for us. And how you go about any transition makes all the difference in the world as far as your experience. So I had clients coming to me who were literally panicked about an upcoming retirement. Either they saw they were going to retire in a couple of years, or their job got reduced in force and they no longer had a job. And the fear and the uncertainty and all of that, when they'd had years and years and years of knowing what they were going to do each day, a solid schedule, an identity, what really was something significant as far as purpose and meaning in their lives. And now suddenly all of that was standing in the way of changing. And that brought them to me.
And I think COVID really accelerated a lot of this because a lot of people were forced into retirement because of the COVID pandemic. And I certainly had a lot of clients who were going through that sort of sudden facing a whole new phase in their life, and they weren't prepared. So let's talk about how our identity is so connected with our career and the pros and cons of that, or how you handle that.
Well, the pros of it is it's something automatic that the person has just subsumed in their life. They have just incorporated in their life, and they're on a track without a lot of conscious thought many times, doing what they do, feeling good about it, and feeling fulfilled. Then we have retirement come in that just sort of takes all that and throws it to the wind, because now all of those things that they relied on to establish good feelings for themselves has changed. And so what I work with clients to do is actually to come back to their core, to come back to what's truth for them as far as the person they are. They were a person before they had this job or this position. They were a person with wants and needs and aspirations well before they even got into their learning, their earning potential part of their life. And so consequently, we look back at what is the essence of the person and what are the goals? What are the things they want to continue to have a part of their life in this new transition chapter of retirement? My focus, as my focus is anyway, is on the importance of what we tell ourselves, how the subconscious mind creates what we're thinking, and getting a clear idea of what the person themselves wants their retirement to be. So rather than being non-conscious or being on automatic pilot, that they actually break that down and create clarity. Because once they have clarity, then we can start working on how to bring it about. So that clarity gets them a good 90% of the way there. Then it's a matter of breaking down the details to start putting activities, to start putting purpose, to start putting those elements that are really meaningful for the individual. And of course, the plan is individualized. Each person has their own idea of what they want. It's just that it's been lots of years since they examined it. And therefore, it's like a whole new awareness that arises when they're looking at it and clarifying it.
It is interesting, isn't it? How many people think, oh, I can't wait to retire because then I don't have to work anymore. And then the closer they get, they go, wait a minute, if I'm not working, what am I going to do?
Exactly. How am I going to fill that time? And each day will come and go. Okay. If I don't have a plan, each day comes and goes. It's just that I don't feel like I'm being productive. I don't feel like I'm accomplishing the things that really matter to me. But if I haven't clarified what really matters to me, then that puts me into an even greater conundrum of not knowing the steps to take.
I think you just used an important word, and that is accomplishment, because in my mind, perhaps it's just my perspective, but I think the sense of productivity, the sense of moving forward, the sense of having an accomplishment under your belt is very important.
Exactly. To feeling that your life has meaning, to feeling that there's purpose behind what you do. And that includes, how do I give back to the community? Okay, is there a volunteer element that I would like to implement? How do I want to be that kind of person who adds to, who gives back? And then what form does that need to take?
I think you bringing that up, how do I give back to the community, is so fascinating, because one of the things I hear from people who have had many, many years in a career that perhaps wasn't fulfilling. Maybe it was a kind of job that they just had to do to pay the bills, and then they got caught in a groove, and then they just continued, and they never had soul fulfillment to begin with.
Yes.
But they link that job with, I have to work, I have to work, I have no choice, I have no choice. And then all of a sudden retirement comes, they go, I have choice.
Yes. But what do I want to do? Now that I have all this choice, I could do whatever I want. What is that? Go ahead.
I do find sometimes that people rebel against wanting to plan very much. People who have been involved in, I have to go to work today and I don't like my job, but it's a grind and I have to do it. Then when they retire, say, I don't want any commitments because I am tired of having to do certain things. And then there's a sense of rebellion. It doesn't always work out so well, but I have seen that psychology prevail sometimes.
Can I show you my favorite tool?
Yes. Oh, a schedule, a weekly schedule.
Yes. And you know what? After about the first month of, I don't have an agenda, I can do whatever I want today, then the person's ready for this. Okay. And I'm not suggesting that you have to fill in every little blank. But to wake up, to look at, okay, today's Monday, and I've got some things filled in here that I'm going to be doing today. It adds an energy to the day. Okay, mine's not filled out, of course. So I would pick this up and go, what am I going to do today with this? But I find that it really replaces that structure that work had by having the person now establish what are those things that I want to be in there filling my day. Mm-hmm. So when you fill something like this out, and I have it in paper form because it really gives you a solid feeling for the week. Okay. When you fill it out, then you have an idea. You fill in the things that are fixed. Oh, I've got that doctor's appointment on Thursday at 1:00. I have exercise class 9 each morning, whatever. Okay. You fill in the fixed things first. Then from there, you look at where are the blanks. Where do I want to put in other things that I have that I'd like to say are finished in order to get them done? And then my suggestion to people is if they're putting something off, that goes right on the top on Monday. Okay, or whatever the next day is. That's the first blank they see, they fill it in with whatever that is. Why? Why would they fill it in the first blank?
Because they don't have an excuse.
Well, and then it's done.
It's done, and it's a sense of accomplishment to start the day.
Exactly. So the one guideline for this is if it's down at a certain time, it gets done. So if you've committed to write it on your schedule, when that time comes, it gets done. So I don't have to think about it again. I don't have to think Saturday, Sunday, oh, that task still needs to be done. Nope. Monday morning, it's out of the way.
And you said Saturday and Sunday, you said weekend. The other thing that happens is people who are working, let's say 9 to 5, Monday through Friday for 30 years. Then all of a sudden when they retire, Saturday, Sunday, the weekend isn't what it used to be, because the weekend used to be the only days to recoup. Now you have every day.
Exactly. And if you're not setting things that are meaningful for you, and therefore time just seems to go on endlessly, nothing gets done, and you feel like, where's your meaning? Where's your purpose? Saturday and Sunday become part of that. Time spans on, and it's just another amount of time that's not filled, and another amount of time that I don't feel good about myself.
On the book title, it says 10 critical lifestyle planning mistakes to avoid.
Yes, exactly.
Right, now, you don't have to list all 10 of them. One of them I would think is not planning or not having any hobbies, for example.
It definitely is. Exactly. And hobbies are things that you can already be doing. Okay, they don't have to be that you just bring in something brand new. Let's say that you've always enjoyed tennis. Continuing to play tennis may be a big chunk of certain days as far as your own activity is concerned. Okay, so definitely having hobbies, having activities, having interests. Okay, and some of those are sort of bucket list interests, things I wanted to do, I've always wanted to do, never got to, use the excuse that I was working, but now I really start putting those into play, into practice. So yes, hobbies, ventures, interests, definitely one of those. Not having them is the mistake. And how you go about solving that, of course, is to put time and attention to what really matters to me. What are the goals? What are the things that are fulfilling? And how do I want to implement that in my days in retirement? So definitely hobbies was one. One of them is goals. Okay, what goals do I have? What would I like to accomplish? What matters to me?
And those would be goals physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally.
Absolutely, on all realms. And as you pointed out before, when you look at material and retirement, so often what you find is financial. Not to say the finances aren't important, of course they are, but it is just one area with such other areas of concern in there as well. So maybe I never made meditation a practice. Maybe I never made developing myself spiritually a practice, but now I have time. If that's important to me, I have time to put that as a priority. But if I don't lay that out, if I don't get clear, I want to do that, then Monday comes and goes. Tuesday comes and goes. Wednesday comes and goes. And I put something in there. I do something, no doubt, but not necessarily those key elements that are most important to me.
Another thing that I think is interesting about retirement, and I hear this sometimes with clients, because not everybody gets to retire at the same time.
Yes.
Many people are working longer and longer. And of course, if they love what they're doing, they may not want to retire, which is great. I mean, you love what you're doing. So, you're not considering that. I love what I'm doing. Yes. But there's another consideration I hear is, let's say somebody retires when they're 70.
Okay.
And I'm talking to them in a consultation, and I'm saying, what fun, adventurous, wonderful, fulfilling things might you start incorporating in your life at this time? Yes. I have heard people say, I just think I'm too old to learn something new. They have adopted the old person mentality and have forgotten that they can still learn, they can still attempt something new, they can still have adventure. And I think that's also an interesting mindset change that needs to happen.
Exactly. Brain science has taken us a long way toward that. And that came about with the functional MRI. Functional MRI is having an MRI done while you're up, engaged, acting, learning a new process. And they've been able to actually track in the brain how learning occurs. Okay, so they'll see a neural network, a new network of neurons that represents the new learning. It wasn't there prior. Now it's there, and that strengthens with repetition. And what they've discovered is that we're capable of learning our entire lifetime. Okay, so unless there's a dementia problem or something like that, we are capable of learning with our normal ability to learn our entire lifetime. So why do some people think that they can't learn? Because that's what they told themselves.
Right.
Okay. Once again, your subconscious mind creates what you're thinking. You tell yourself you can't learn and you're too old. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, whatever. You get to be right. So then that becomes your reality, not because it has to be, but because that is what you told yourself. And now your subconscious mind is setting out to make it happen. Okay. I think there's an even deeper thing, though, going on, and that's the concept of age. Okay. Age is a state of mind. We decide that we're old. Subconscious mind comes in, creates, we're old. We decide that we are young of heart, fully capable of doing whatever we choose to do, and easily to learn, to recall, to remember. Then that becomes what our subconscious mind creates. Mm-hmm. And I believe that we stand in a position very unique to generations that came before us. Generations that came before us had to work hard at just making a living, at just being able to survive. And that caused them to age, I'm going to say age prematurely. At that time, they were aging however they were aging. Okay, I can remember my grandparents. I was maybe 8 years old. My grandparents had to be in their 50s, but they were old. Okay, they were fatigued. They talked about that. They were slower. They couldn't do physically the things that they were able to do before. So that was their experience, and that was what they conveyed. I think we've had opportunities that other generations before us did not have, for quality food, for knowing the importance of exercise, for a whole variety of different experiences that, if we've taken advantage of them, actually has us younger now than someone the age that we are. So someone in their 50s acting more like maybe in their 30s, someone in their 60s perhaps being closer to their 40s, someone in their 70s being closer to how it used to be in the 50s, when a person was in their 50s. Okay, someone in their 80s that are closer to how it used to be when someone was in their 60s. And I think that gives us a responsibility to redefine the idea of aging.
It does all boil down to a choice. And what a great conversation that is with somebody to say, maybe you could look at this differently and think about it differently. Yes. Some of it, I think, also is, though, people who have had a job that was repetitive, maybe boring, maybe highly structured, where they never had to learn how to self-direct or self-structure, and they've spiraled into stagnation. You know, you spiral into that comfort zone of stagnation, then you get to retire, and all of a sudden you get to expand if you want to expand, but you have to remember to learn how to do new things.
Exactly. And so often what I do with clients is we go back to earlier times in their lives, often to when they were kids, because they had some of those skills. It was a natural response for them. And we tap into what they knew then that they could accomplish or they could set their mind on and do, and then bring that skill forward to how they can use it now, because they already have experience with it.
So sometimes it's fear that gets in the way too.
It can. Absolutely. So when I have a client that comes to me in retirement who is panicked and fearful, okay, that panic and fear has them believing things that don't have to be the case. But while they're believing them, now their subconscious mind is on track to create it. So yes, often the first step is, what if it could be different?
It always goes back to that. What if it could be different? What if you thought about this differently and spoke about it in a different way?
Yes.
I do a lot of listening when I am with a client, and I'm absolutely sure that's your protocol too. And you hear the word choice, you hear how they're phrasing things, and you have to call them out on it.
Yes. Oh, no, exactly. I often say to a client, if you wish. So they'll have said to me something like, I can never go back and do that. I can never make that happen. And I say to them, if you wish, and then go on to explain that by stating it that way, they're actually setting the program to create it. And if they want that outcome, that's fine. Okay, it's their life. It's not my life. But if that's an outcome that they're also telling me they don't want, then we get the opportunity to work with, all right, so what do you want? And now what are the messages you need to give yourself to support that happening?
Interesting. Very good. And those are brilliant points, and they are the foundation of this whole process.
Exactly.
I have seen, since the generation of my children in their late 20s, early 30s right now, their reality is a little difficult in that housing is so expensive, the economy, everything. And I'm finding people who are my age who are retiring, who have children who are my children's age, who have children of them, so they have grandchildren, bottom line. Then I find a lot of the retired people end up in a situation where they're babysitting and caring for their grandchildren instead of retiring. And so what ends up happening is they've just taken on a non-paid job.
Exactly. A non-paid job where someone else is defining the hours.
It's a lot of work to take care of children.
Exactly. No, exactly. And so one of the things I work with clients on along the lines of what do you want your retirement to be is how to say no. How to be clear. Here's what I can do, not something else. Here's the amount I can offer to babysit, not anymore. Okay, why? because I'm looking at helping them protect their life and their goals.
And to create a fulfilled section of their life. We're talking about a major phase change. It's like you begin not only a new life, but a new identity, a new structure.
Yes.
It really is profound and important for people to embrace this and jump in with both feet to make it as good as they can.
So the other side of it is, during my years when I was working, I was saying yes to too many things that other people wanted me to do, and never learned the skill of looking at, this is my life, what do I want it to be? So sometimes it's a matter of building new skills in that direction, believing that I have the right to do that, believing that 24/7 is mine to live, not someone else's to allocate for me, but mine to live. And in the 1970s, there was a strong movement toward assertiveness training. And one of the writers at that time talked about us having our own Bill of Rights, our human Bill of Rights. And one of the rights that this particular author talked about was that we have the right to say no and not feel guilty. And we have a right to determine what we do with our time 100% of the time. However, some people have continued in their life doing the things that others wanted without creating that space for themselves. So it's just another skill we get to work on creating.
Yeah, and it brings up the concept that if you've had 40 years developing a certain programmed habit, a certain reaction to outside triggers, the outside trigger of guilt, the outside trigger of they'll love me more if I do this, I'm going to earn their love by doing them a favor, whatever the trigger is, and you have the habitual response, then those neural pathways in your brain, those grooves are really deep. And when you go to change that, it takes effort, it takes consistency, and it may take a little extra effort because you have done it for 40 or 50 years.
60 or 70 for
60
some people.
or 70. Yes.
They've done it since they were kids. So exactly. And one of the things we do is we do rehearsal so that they have some practice doing that before they even get into the situation. And when I'm rehearsing a new response with a client, I ask them, okay, first of all, I'm going to be you and you be that other person so that I can learn the kind of style the other person's going to use. Then we switch it and the client becomes themselves and I'm now the person they're talking to, so that they get their own experience of saying the message, holding out for the message, not saying too much. Okay, just repeating the outcome that they're looking to create.
Okay, so I have to pause here and say Marlene and I have been really good friends for 40 years, and we've had many, many conversations. She has been my mentor for understanding psychology on a deeper level. And you do that rehearsal in all conversations all the time, and you do it seamlessly, but it gets results. You have a gift in this area. And that rehearsal is incredibly important. And even in conversations you and I have had, you have played my part and then you've switched it and played the other person's part. And just an everyday conversation, we're not talking therapy, but it is incredibly effective, incredibly. And it creates action.
Exactly. And it's exciting for me because it's so creative. I don't know what the other person's going to say. I don't know what they're going to say as themselves. I don't know what they're going to say as the person they're going to be talking to, but it keeps my mind clicking because I need to come up on the spot with an answer to whatever comes up. So it's really fun.
Now, Marlene and I share a friend. His name is Pete Sanders Jr., and he started the Free Soul organization. This is how Marlene and I met. And one of Pete's best phrases, which I think would pertain to retirement, is make life a quest, not a test. And that sense of quest, I think, really flows in beautifully to the concept of how do you look forward to retirement? Well, it's a quest where I get to create my own adventure. Even if you're living on a very skinny budget, you can still find things to do that can become a quest.
Exactly. And if you've been someone who's very self-critical, and your entire life for 50, 60, 70 years, then how you allow yourself the grace to experiment and explore and not be so judgmental that you kind of squash yourself before you've even had a chance to find out what kinds of skills, what kinds of things do I want to be a part of this? So it's a chance to learn that new skill as well. How do I accept myself? How am I kind with myself? How do I talk to myself the way I would my best friend?
The importance in retirement of learning, continuing to grow, continuing to activate the brain can begin immediately with learning new habits, learning to redirect the mind, because then you are activating the very principle of, see, you're learning already. You're exactly. Already beginning new habits.
And my inner wish is that people read the book, take the ideas, and then go, I don't have to wait to do this till I retire. I can start this right now. I did an online bucket list challenge, and the participants of the bucket list challenge, so we were working with what are some fun, enjoyable things that you would like to spend time doing. Okay, in retirement was where we were going, but my attendees gave me feedback afterwards that because of the focus on here's something important to me, here's my first simple step that I can take, here's my second simple step that I can take, that they got so excited about this endeavor that they didn't wait for retirement. They just went ahead in the time of the challenge and got it done. So something that been thinking about for years and years and years. Oh, yes, I'll get to that. Now they approached it. They took steps. They made it happen.
And if they make that happen even before they're retired, they have to assume that more and more of those wonderful ideas and creative approaches and goals will still show up.
Exactly.
You're not using it up. You're not keeping it on a bucket list going, I have to save this until I retire because there's not very many things that I can do. It will continue to flow.
Exactly. But if I believe there's not many things I can do, then what I do is I limit the number of things I can do.
Yes.
If I know just what you said, that there is an limitless number of things I can do. So I do this one now, and then that paves the way for this next one that I wanted after that, and it paves the way for this third one that I wanted after that. And they just keep coming. So if I create that reality, then that totally is my experience. You're 100% correct.
Mm-hmm. When I'm talking to clients, I say, what feeds your soul? What gives you a gourmet meal for the soul? Some of them, especially as they approach retirement, because they will list off, when I retire, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And I say, does that feed your soul? Well, no, what I really like to do is this, but I'll be retired, so I can't do that. And then it's, why not?
Exactly.
Why not? Why can't you do what feeds your soul? What gives you fulfillment, body, mind, and spirit? Why can't you find a way to apply that?
And what do they say? What was their belief why they couldn't do it if they were retired?
Circumstances changing, hooking it into something that will be complete, not feeling like they can create it themselves. I mean, if you have somebody who has a job who gets to create new ideas in their job,
yes,
but it's linked to it, this only happens in my job in this structure, and then they retire carrying that mindset of they can continue to create. I've seen that block come up and I'm always stunned. It's like, you know how to create. Why do you think as soon as the job is done, it's not going to continue?
Well, or why do you think that's one of the mistakes, not continuing to expand their social circle? Why do you think you can't bring in people who would love doing this with you.
Yes.
If you don't know them right now, fine. But what makes you think that you can't reach out and find those people? And if that is something you like to do socially, great. You find new people to do it with.
Because what you are trying to prevent is the slow leak of life force that takes place when people are bored and stagnant and have stopped growing once they retire, which inevitably leads to bad health on the body, mind, spirit level, on all levels. Depression,
anxiety. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Watching too much news, fixating on things over which they have no control.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So it's a combination of needing to have physical activities, something to do where you are moving your body, not necessarily always exercise, but something physical as well as mental.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Spiritual, emotional expression. Who are you going to be doing those things with? That's one of the things I ask people to identify too. Okay. There are some things that isolation works really well and you like doing things yourself, but where are you going to bring in other people? We're social beings. How is that element going to be met for you?
Mm-hmm.
So all of those different dynamics.
And then learning to self-direct.
Exactly.
That's where the planner helps too. Your schedule that you showed, learning to self-direct, because if you write it down, you create a structure that work used to create.
Exactly.
Any other major mistakes that you see people making that you try to correct or redirect?
The biggest one is mindset. Since the subconscious mind is going to be creating it the way we direct it, the way we order it to happen, the biggest one is really clarifying that positive, focused mindset. So sometimes it's a matter of the person examining their self-talk messages, the messages they give themselves about themselves, and working with having those be more positive, working with affirming positive outcome in situations. But the mindset is one of the huge, huge ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can begin immediately. Yes. And most people aren't even aware of the mindset they have adopted. It's on, as you said, it's on autopilot.
Exactly.
Until someone points out, when somebody says, God, this is killing me, or I just feel like I'm going to die in this situation. And I point out, did you hear what you just said? They go, oh, does that matter?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And again, my statement, if you wish.
Mm-hmm.
It can be that way if that's really what you want. But if it's not really what you want, whoa, new worlds can open up.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. What you are doing is good work with this and preparing people. And I love what you say happened with your online group with the bucket list, where it triggered them to say, why am I putting off my own happiness? If this is something I want, why does it have to wait till retirement? And I really encourage people to get the book, Retire Without Regret. It's on Amazon. Pick it up, start looking at it. Hopefully it will trigger new ways to start thinking immediately.
And the easy way to get to Amazon for the book is http://retirewithoutregret.com. So I went ahead and made what I thought would make it really, really simple as a process so that more and more people could get it and benefit from the ideas.
Mm-hmm. And you recently got the bestseller status, right?
I did. That is correct.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you. That was fun.
And I have several clients and people I know who got the book and who are already benefiting from it. It is triggering them to think in ways, because all they were focused on was the goal of retirement and not the goals after retirement. Exactly. Isn't that interesting?
Yes. And very, very common that that's the case.
Mm-hmm. Mhm. Well, thank you so much. And you're doing good work with the world. And I really do recommend, if you are in the age group where you are approaching it, consider getting the book, consider reaching out to Dr. Marlene. She's fabulous. And I wish everybody a lifetime of learning and questing and fulfillment and growth and fun.
In true Maverick fashion.
In true Maverick fashion.
Yes.
Of course, because the Maverick would be saying, ooh, what new adventure can I come across? Yes.
Exactly. No, exactly.
All right. Thank you for everything you do, and bye for now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kathy. I really appreciate it.